Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
It is 6 o'clock. This is the Windham Northeast Union Elementary School District meeting for April 14th, and I am now calling it to order. Item 2 is introductions. And what we did the other night, which worked, is my assistant chair in the house? She in the in person there? Lynn there?
Yeah.
When will you ask everybody in the room to introduce themselves? And then we'll do that with people online.
From Grafton, representing the WNUESD.
Lynn Morgan from Athens, representing the WNUESD.
We don't have to say that. Cheryl Charles from Westminster.
Charlie Hutchison was representing Josh Westminster.
Andy Haas, Superintendent of Schools.
Ricky Adams, Technology Director.
So is that everybody there?
Yes.
All right, then we'll do the same for the folks online. On my screen to my right is Karen Blanchard. Introduce yourself, Karen.
Hi, Karen Blanchard, Westminster Board.
Next, I've got, is it Teen or Tina? I just wasn't sure about pronunciation.
It's Teen, it's short for Christine.
So, and you are from, and you are?
I'm Teen BLC, Westminster School Board.
Liz, I have you next.
Liz Hardy, Principal, Westminster Center School.
And Krista, I have you next.
Krista Gay from Athens for the WNUESD.
Well done. It took me a year to get the alphabet.
I read it.
All right, and I see Andy and Rick, but they're been introduced, so that's everybody. Thank you all. Unless there's anybody we're missing here. All right, on to item 3, which is communications and public comment. Do we have any?
I do not see any, Jack.
All right. Good enough.
Jack.
Yeah. All right, then, if there's no public comment, excuse me, let's review and approve board minutes for March 24th, 2022. Was everybody able to find said minutes? And have you all?
I only wanted to say there were adjustments. There's a level that's adjustment to agenda.
Yeah, that was my
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry. Then you've just called your board chair out of order, which is correct. Other adjustments to the agenda?
Just the homeschooling, if it can happen before 7.
All right, well, we'll make that a 6B1 if we can. And that seems like the place to put it.
And then, Jack, the only request I had was, I know that we had RHR under 6A, but they may be later than that time. So if we could squeeze them in when they show up.
When they show up, we'll do that because they're gonna, otherwise they come up pretty quick. In fact, I'll tell you what, why don't we switch 6 and 7 just to make everybody's life easier. And we'll try to make sure that we get in the business about superintendent's update as soon as we've done the new business. So without objection.
Jack, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's about another item as far as adjustments go. I know the superintendent emailed us a draft of the flag policy. Is that something we're supposed to comment or give feedback on publicly, or is that something we're supposed to do through emails? I just wasn't sure if we were supposed to address that.
I'm going to let the superintendent discuss it if he feels it's appropriate for us to discuss it.
Yeah, that was
at his update. How's that?
Okay, because I just had a few legal comments. So
you know, we're going to take those comments and probably consider them at either the SU meeting or as comment when the high school meets, because I understand they had a lively session Monday.
Yeah.
Jack, if I
Okay.
may,
Yes,
2 members of the policy committee. And so anyone who got that was just a member of the policy committee, because the policy committee needs to meet and
Okay.
discuss, decide if they're going to do it. So it is not for public consumption at this time.
Okay.
sounds fine. I know that, as I said, I wasn't there and feel like those one of those high school board meetings I'm happy I missed. So we will talk about it at that committee meeting, which we'll have to get together really quickly.
Thank you.
All right. So we still don't have any other public comments. So we're still at 5, review and approve board minutes for March 24th.
Jack, there's one adjustment I can see on the minutes from the 24th.
Yep.
It just, when it says those in attendance, I'm not listed as in attendance on that day, but I was there.
Yes, you were. So we will make that note, and I will accept a motion to accept the minutes as amended or as corrected. I'm getting
Jack, there are a couple of other spelling issues in addition to the omission of team.
yes, there are. Thank you.
The soon-to-be aboard business manager, his name should be spelled, it's Vezina, correct?
Yes.
Thank you for that one. All right. Anything else that any eagle eye has picked up on? Then I will again entertain a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
All right. Is it without objection? And we have adopted the minutes as corrected. Onward and upward to the next item, which would be, we said we're going to switch 6 and 7. So appointments and resignations, if any. Andy, I see that we have a resignation. Is there anything else that you want to talk to? What you want to talk to that, or who would like to talk to that?
So we shared with you a list of teachers for both Westminster and Athens Grafton School.
Yep.
Seeing if it's in this packet. It's not in this packet, so I'll have to pull it up. And so there are, as I pull it up, Liz, is there anything you want, as I'm bubbling through this, you want to?
Yeah, I have a letter of resignation I can read to the board if that is the appropriate time for that. Perfect. So this letter says, Dear Mrs. Hardy, I'm writing to inform you, and this is from Michelle Jafar, our current kindergarten teacher. I'm writing to inform you that I will not be returning to my position of classroom teacher at Westminster Center School for the 2022-23 school year. I appreciate the opportunities that I've had teaching in Westminster, and I'm grateful to take with me the experience that I have gained working with the wonderful students and families. I wish the students and staff of Westminster the best, and will do anything I can to support a smooth transition into this next school year. Sincerely, Michelle Jafar.
Thank you. Do we need a resolution to accept that resignation? This would be essentially, she's just non-renewing, correct? I mean, per her letter of resignation, she's not leaving in the middle of the school year. This is,
No, this is just a non-renew.
okay. I'm not sure that we need if someone feels that they'd like to accept the resignation, we can, but we don't need to at this point. With that, are there any other appointments or anything else in under 7A that we need to consider?
Yes,
Well-
I would like to recommend to the board that they accept Karina Stack as an incoming kindergarten teacher to Westminster Center School. Karina has been a kindergarten teacher at Grafton Elementary for the past 2 years, and I think she would be a wonderful fit to our school at Westminster Center. She's a very skilled educator, and we would be really lucky to have her.
All right. This feels like something that the Westminster Board would approve as opposed to the combined boards. So if the folks at the WNUESD would like to briefly recess, I'll stay here while the Westminster folks talk about this and vote to accept or not this application, why don't we do that?
Well, I'll entertain a motion to have Karina Stack appointed, hired as a kindergarten teacher at the Westminster Center School. That's a motion on the floor.
And I second.
And any discussion?
I have a quick question. What's the normal procedure here? Are these positions usually advertised, or do internal candidates get an automatic shoe-in?
So it was advertised, so
Oh, I see.
we put it out on, usually on School Spring and Indeed. Those are the two spots where we put it out there, and but we will typically float it a little internally first before it goes public. So if there is someone within the SU that's interested, so.
All right. Then I think I'll poll the board. Karen Blanchard
Yes.
and Charlie Hutchison,
Yes?
and I'll vote in the affirmative myself. Oh, and Teen, I'm sorry, Teen feels.
Yes, definitely. I have a kindergartner next year, so yes.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, and then the only other action we need from the Westminster Board, just while we're got you, is acceptance of the list of teachers for next year. There are, we anticipate 2 openings next year. We're actually, we'll be bringing a couple more resignations to you. We just haven't received those yet, but they're the ones we spoke of.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Don't look. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. No, so we've been verbally informed of a couple of the staff members at Westminster. They're in the packet on the last page, but just out of respect for those staff members, and they haven't come on board with their new one, but they did speak with principals ahead of time and whatnot. So,
Well, I would entertain a motion to accept the proposed roster of educators for the upcoming school year at Westminster Center School.
Second?
All righty. I guess that turned out that I made a motion. I think I can. All right. So I will.
or as moved.
Yeah, thank you. Poll the board, and I'll start with Teen.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And let me just make a comment about this. When I look at the list, it's such a wonderful mix of people, some with just many years of experience, others newer to the field. It's just an outstanding group. And certainly you, Liz, do a great job. So thank you. We look forward to another wonderful school year.
Thank you. Can I just add on? I don't know if I can, but the admin team has been working on feedback and how to give appropriate feedback and do feedback loops with staff. And I put out to my staff, if anybody was interested, obviously non-evaluatory, completely voluntary. If they wanted to help me practice and get better at feedback, I would love to be part of these feedback loops with staff. And what's wonderful is a few teachers did come up to me and say, yeah, I'd love to do that. And they ranged, it was a huge spectrum of like new teachers and then teachers who are on the veteran end who were like, yeah, I want to get better. I would love it. So it just is such a testament to Westminster and the community, and the culture of the school is one of growth and student-centered. So I just want to echo that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jack, the other one we have is we have the list from for Grafton Elementary School for that board to consider.
And this is the time where we do that. Do you want, it's a small enough group. Do you want to read it off or you just simply want to leave it as in the packet?
Email it out, and I apologize. I think that what got printed out was the Westminster one and not the UE one, so I apologize. So, on the list is Catherine Hasseltine, so I apologize if I'm butchering names. Wendy Johnson as a 40% PE teacher. Rebecca Keir as a 40% choral teacher. Elaine Krager. Vanessa Stern. Laura Vogel. Desiree Wilbur as a school nurse. Carrie Towell as a 60% guidance counselor. And there are 2 open positions. One of them was the one that Karina just vacated. So.
Do we have any ideas to what we're looking at in terms of prospects, or are these vacancies been warned yet?
They have been warned, Jack. I don't know. I did not have a chance to talk with Ms. Cartier about this list this morning. And I know she's having a parent meeting tonight, so she's unable to be here, but I know she's been looking, so.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the roster as read by Superintendent Haas.
I move that we approve the roster as presented by Superintendent Haas.
Is there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, why don't we do the roll call of those in the room? Lynn, why don't we start with you and then Hardy, and I'm not sure who else is in the room again. It's very hard to see people on the screen.
Just the 2 from you guys, Jack.
Okay.
I say yes.
I say yes.
All right. Krista?
Yes.
All right. And we don't have, do we have Elise? We don't have Elise and we don't have David at this point, correct?
Correct.
All right. Then it's unanimous. So we've approved the roster. And so having done that, all 7 is completed. We're on to 6B as we vamp, waiting for our friends from RHR.
I'd like to make a comment about the fact that Vanessa Stern is coming to Grafton and how fortunate Grafton is to have her be a part of this school community.
Yeah, I actually had an ex parte with Andy about that. I'm not unhappy about that. Certainly, that's an add from my perspective as somebody that knows the community well, and somebody that's just probably well known to a lot of us that have been in public, life around these areas. They certainly know her, and I've known her through MSA for a very long time, and think she's a bedrock of stability and common sense. And that's a
Jack, I just wanted to remind, so the homeschooling is B1 or something like that?
That will be coming up with Mr. Haas's update, which is happening imminently.
Okay, and then afterwards, okay. Thanks.
So we'll get you in at 6:18 and we'll have this discussed before you run off to wherever you run off to here.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Yep, you are.
So just a few updates. So we've been working with ESSER. We've been working with our standing committee, going through especially ESSER 1, trying to finalize the spending that we've done on ESSER 1 because they're going to stop any amendments as of May. Sometime in May here, we're not going to be able to do any more amendments. And those funds run out in September of 22. So we wanted to deplete those funds, make sure we're not sending any monies back up to the state. So we've been working on that. We've got a good plan. I think I just submitted it again with all our amendments. And so I think we're at a point where we've pretty much depleted that first grant, and then we'll start working on the second grant. We've also just, as a committee, been really working on looking at Arp Spending, which is the third grant, and how to kind of put those out. And so I'll piggyback on it. We pushed out what was called Thought Exchange yesterday to the community, and that's really an online discussion platform to try and get feedback, like a survey, to use people's own words. And so we pushed it out with our vision statement, because we realized as a district we really didn't have a vision statement, and it kind of came out of our strategic planning and recovery team, which is all intertwined in ESSER, and so that's the reason I'm bringing it up here. And so we will be pushing out other thought exchanges around how we're looking at spending some ESSER funds, and so we really encourage the community to provide that. It's been really great, just the stuff we've already gotten in the last 24 hours. We partnered with the Keene Swamp Bats, which is a collegiate baseball team for the summer with their Reading with Ribby program, and that's for all of our elementary schools. And so kids have been engaged. The whole point of the program is just to challenge kids to read. It's 18 times for 20 minutes through the course of the spring, and then when kids have completed that, they'll get invited to a Swamp Bats game. I believe it's June 15th. They get a t-shirt, they get to go out on the field with the players, whatnot. And so, you know, my boys, having grown up in Keene, they enjoyed it as they went through. And so it was something, I've known the president for a while, and coming into this position, he reached out to us, and we thought it would be a good partnership. We are looking at ways to possibly provide transportation for families that might be a hardship to get over there. So, so more to come on that as we get closer to that. So we, with open positions at the SU level, we have made an offer to a candidate for our Director of Innovation and Instruction. We'll be bringing that candidate forward to the SU board on Wednesday night. We are extremely excited about this person. We're welcoming Sarah Doran, who's our new Director of Academic Programming. She started a week or so ago and has already been getting started and just getting an understanding. She's going to be overseeing the 21C grant, which affects both Westminster and Grafton. And so she's really been getting, you know, just knowledgeable about what things are going on. Also Heather Marquez, who joined us as one of our home to school liaisons, and she's just taken off and making connections with families right away, which is really great. And then, you know, what we've done for summer programming, Kim Budzik, who works out of Westminster, is going to be running our combined Westminster Grafton site. So we're going to be providing all summer is going to be at Westminster this year, and we're working out transportation with that. And then we have folks for our other sites. We'll be having a combined Central Saxons River site, and then we'll have one at the middle school like we've normally had. Emergency planning, all the buildings, we've asked them to go through their plans, just because we've been so focused on COVID for 2 years that we need to get back into the normal operation of worrying about those things. We will be sitting down right when we get back from break and reviewing them as an admin team and seeing what we need to do to, you know, fill in any gaps or move forward. Just a reminder that our April break is next week, and so we want people to enjoy and take some time off and relax. I mentioned earlier our strategic plan through the recovery team. So we'll be using that strategic plan that we're working with a group focus schools. That will be rolling into our SIP, or our continuous improvement plan, which we need for our title grants. In the next month, we will be having a community meeting to discuss it, along with the thought exchange that we're pushing out. And that is about it. I mean, I can I can jump into homeschool, or I can see if there's any questions, Jack, first on.
Why don't we,
I have a question.
so why don't we start there?
Andy, I'm relatively new to all of these grants and titles and so forth, so I don't want you to do it now, but if there is a sheet that describes what these are and you could send it to me, I would like it.
Aaron, it's like an old telephone book. It's like
Well, do you have your office? Could I come to your office and look at this telephone book?
I'm joking. I will, I'll put together like an FAQ for all the boards. I think that's a great, you know, and I do apologize coming over from the world of special education. I live in the world of acronyms and so.
Well, I did too at SIT, but you know, this is new work. So this would be great. Thank you so much.
And I will remind all of you that there is one standing rule called the acronym or rule. If you start getting three and 5 letter combinations, you are entitled under Jack's rule for small boards to interrupt whoever talking, saying, please, English.
Define that, yeah, exactly. Jack, if I may, I have a question for Andy.
Yes.
Is the date scheduled for the community meeting? I wasn't sure.
So I originally did have it scheduled for April 26th, but we're not going to have some things finalized. And then we have Lynn Lyons coming as a community night, May 11th. Liz, is that the correct date? And so I want to make sure I don't conflict with that. So we may push it out the week before, which would be May 4th. I just want to finalize that a little bit so we can do that. But I don't want to go too late also because we're going to get into June pretty fast.
So this April 26th date is not correct.
That April 26th date has moved just because we won't have an opportunity to meet as a administrative team until the 27th.
Okay.
And so it'll be a little premature because we're going to finalize some things on that date. So thank you for asking.
Yeah. Andy, I've got a question. We have a memorandum of understanding that we need to do between the Westminster and WNUESD boards, and we have a student that I have notes from that there was a student that was asking to attend. I think it was Grafton, or maybe it's the other way around, and we needed to have an MOU according to the minutes signed to that effect. Is that a thing, or am I just hallucinating? Or was that something else we need to correct on the board minutes?
I guess I was under the assumption that the boards had accepted that in executive session, and
yes, I just want to make sure that I thought that it had to be something signed off, you know, that it had to be an accompanying document, or maybe not.
I would have to check into the legalities of that. I don't want to speak until you have.
That's fine. Just you know, I'm big into dotting of I's and crossing of T's given last year's experiences. So I was just want to make sure we got that covered if there was anything about that, so that an auditor wouldn't think that something was there that wasn't. So okay, is cool. So then I guess that's it in terms of your report. Is there anything else, or we're all good?
No, we're all good. I can talk a little bit about homeschool. I would a little of this on the fly, and I'm gonna, because Ms. Hardy is here, I'm gonna lean on her a little bit because I know she's had to experience this a couple times, so maybe she has the memory. So essentially, if a family chooses to do homeschool, they have to file curriculum, they have to file a petition with the state, and then they have to file the curriculum with the state. If a student wants to access education at the school, list 70/30.
Yep, they can access 2/5 of the academic day of the public in the sending school.
So it's 2/5 academic day, and we define that as you know, as we say, an academic period as opposed to coming for lunch. So it's not a percentage of the day, it's 2 academic periods of the day. And then if a student requires special education, the LEA or the SU is still responsible to provide an IEP for that student. However, because the student's not in the building, they may not be responsible to provide all those services. So if a student needs certain services, they can come to the building and receive services. But essentially, by not being in the building, it doesn't make the LEA or the district doesn't have to go out of its way to provide those services in the home. And that's in a real brief nutshell, Karen, but if there's specifics, I can get into more detail and provide more of a documentation for you. I'm just doing it off the fly here.
That's great, really, Andy. I'd love to see, I'm a visual person. It helps me to sort of see it, if you don't mind.
That's fine. And then also this school year, the UE board voted to allow or to provide BTVLC, which is the online school for students who wanted to due to COVID. So last year we provided that as an SU for any families who wanted to homeschool last year, because it is considered homeschool. Last year we provided teachers, so those kids actually wasn't considered homeschool last year. Those students were part of our SU, still in our count. This year, because of how the state structured things and the relaxing of the state of emergency, any student who attends BTVLC, they're not considered on your enrollment. And so, but again, the UE board had decided that they would allow and would pay for those students. And off the top, Liz, I don't know how, I'm thinking it's a few for Grafton, like 2.
We have currently 1.
Come back.
Yeah.
School back, so.
Yes, and I looked up the memo. I wanted to put it in the chat, but Ricky, I guess the chat's disabled. There is a memo with the AOE that outlines kids accessing public school when they're homeschooling. So I can send that to Ricky, and Ricky can put it in the chat for anyone who's interested. And a correction, it's 3/5 of the day. I mentioned 2/5 of the day. So it's 3/5 of the academic day. Oh, no, I was correct. I just want to reread this. The courses can be taken at a public school, then, okay, as long as 3/5 of the core courses are taught at home. So I can share that with Ricky, and he can put it in the chat for anyone who's interested.
I wonder.
2 questions about that. Then Karen, I'll feed it back to you for a minute. One is when we have kids that come in for 40% of their day, or 40% of the classroom time here, we're still not being compensated at any level. Is that correct? Are we getting any financial assistance for providing that service, or are we doing that gratis?
Say it again, Jack, I'm sorry.
We have student A who is homeschooled, comes to our school, says, I'd like you to teach our child music, and I'd like you to teach our child the math during their school day. They are we're providing them services. Are we compensated at any level for that student for providing those services?
No. But that it has to be that it's 3/5 that they have to be homeschooled, so that they're considered a homeschool. If they are if they're accessing more than 2/5, then they're not considered homeschool. So then we would be compensated for that student.
All right. Secondly, how do we measure academic progress? And the reason I know this is because we spent a lot of time on the high school board freshman academy, and we'd have kids entering freshman academy that were doing phenomenally well in part of their academics from being homeschooled, and not at all well in some other areas. How do we measure academic progress year to year?
For homeschool students or for all students?
Yeah, for homeschool students.
You don't monitor that's why. So when a student is homeschooled, the school is not involved in their schooling. So they have to file it with the state and explain to the state how they're going to provide curriculum and how they're going to provide any assessing.
So this is strictly a relationship between them and the state, and we're not involved to ascertain whether or not they're making measurable progress at all.
Correct.
Okay.
This is who the homeschool kids have.
I would want to research that, but my memory is they have the ability to access athletics and band and things like that. So extracurricular, they still have an opportunity to access that. But without, and that's where I want to put together something that Karen's asking for that kind of outlines that. So
Follow-up question, which is, I know that in the past, students at Compass, so they weren't homeschool kids, who also had access to sports, were demoted on the roster. So the principle at that time was you can't displace an in-school kid on the team. You can't knock somebody onto the bench if you're not a full-time student. So is there any such policy, or was that an ad hoc thing at the time?
I can't speak to. I'm not even aware of that situation, but I would that when we have because students who could be attending our schools should have full access to our extracurricular activities, and I would hope that we would not promote one student over the other, that we're putting our best out on the field.
We have signed letters, Andy. I just know this because I've sat on high school board for way too many years. There was almost every year a letter that was exchanged between Compass and the high school about how student athletics were to be handled. And generally, those students, if sport was not provided at one school, the other school would pick it up. Or if, in other words, if we had basketball, they didn't. They had foosball, frisbee or something, we didn't. That was sort of the way it was handled.
Right, but I think what Charlie's referring to is a student. Let's just use student A from Compass who wants to play football. May not get a starting spot, even though that student may be a better athlete, because they're not a Bellows Falls Union High School student.
We don't do that. Yeah, we don't do that. If the kid can, hold his own and deserves to start, he deserves to start. Besides, you never get a coach to agree to putting their best player on the bench in the last 20 years.
All right, I do see that we have RHR here. Jack, if we put them in place.
Yep, let's do that. Right on time for where we need them. So we're now at 6A, report from Rhr Smith.
Hey, Andy. Hey, folks.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
God, Bill, it's a long day, but Miranda's going to take you through the tour. She said she was going to save me, Andy. So I understand you guys have had some questions from the last meeting, and sounds like she's going to pick up from there. So Miranda, I'll turn it over to you.
Do I have access to share my screen?
We might need you to get that mic a little closer again, Miranda.
How about that? Is that better?
Not great, but we'll take it.
Okay, I'll try to yell. I don't, sometimes my mic is weird. I don't know. So last meeting we presented, and you had a specific question on the prior year line that stuck out. It was about $250,000. And we said we'd do some research to figure out what it was. And we have, so I wanted to let you know in our research of figuring out what that line is, there was about 170,000 or so was tuition for prior year that just got booked in 21. Tuition excess cost. The other piece of it was there was about $79,000 that ended up being a double posting.
Tell them what the double posting was, Miranda, about some late cash flow adjustments from the SU between the municipalities, please.
Correct. There's a reconciliation for revenue for taxes that happens. And it was, so the school district actually owed the two towns, I believe West and Athens, some money because the taxes had been overpaid to the school district. And so it was booked in one place and then it was booked in another place. And so in our reconciliation, we went through and I reversed that journal entry. So, so what I'm presenting you is draft number 2. I don't know, Andy received it pretty late today, so I don't know if he was able to share it with you.
Can I interrupt for a second? I have no idea who this person, who RHR is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Let me do a brief one, and then why don't you guys?
I kind of like that, though. Whoever just said it, I'd love to remain anonymous, quite frankly.
Not a chance. Not a chance, Ron. Okay, we're meeting right now with some of the principals of our auditing firm, Rhr Smith. As you may have heard, we had a fascinating time with the finance department. And this is a part of a normal audit process that is normally completed in January. And here we are in April. And it's part of the reason why there's a blank in the and one of the reasons we delayed the meeting of the district to allocate the money is because we didn't have a audited amount. And one of the items you'll see right on the top of the screen is that audited budgetary fund balance. Ron is the chair of that, and he can reintroduce his members and describe the relationship if you'd like.
Thanks, Jack. I'm Ron Smith, principal with RHR. I work at the pleasure of 45 other professionals. I think we do literally like 70% of all the school systems in the state of Vermont and another 80 to 100 in the state of Maine. So we know a lot about who you are and what you are.
And we've lost you, Ron.
So so the other is Miranda McDonald, who works with Ron, and then Brittany, and I forgot her last name, and is also, but she can introduce her. Is she still with us? Maybe Brittany dropped off too.
Brittany was not able to get on tonight. Brittany Gilman.
So, but Miranda has spent a lot of time in our office, in our books, so she probably can speak best to what's going on. So.
Yes, and I'm Miranda McDonald. I've been the audit lead for about 3-4 years now. Started with Edie in 2018 and have gone through the transition with y'all. So we gave a presentation at the last board meeting, just a short report. So I wanted to follow up with some of the questions that you had regarding the line item the prior year. And so that was just the tuition that we found for prior year and then the double booking.
And to simply say it, to add to what Miranda said, the bottom line didn't change, but the chemistry did, which is what you picked up upon our research. So we've gone in and, made, kind of the adjustments to those financial statements for proper period recording, but the bottom line hasn't changed. Correct, Miranda, since the last presentation?
The one difference is the bottom line. I believe fund balance increased by about the $79,000. That was the double booking.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Black, they didn't our red. I couldn't
That's
figure
good.
it out. Which way?
That's to the good.
To the good.
To the good.
Correct. To the good.
To the
It
good.
increased.
I like that.
That's more of a surplus, is what it is.
That is correct.
So that's the 1,455,916 number. Is that the total fund balance as of the end of the fiscal year per your audit?
So for general fund, I have 1,421,224. Your other governmental funds, this is going to be special revenue that is designated. So E-rate. There's a little bit of summer school for a special revenue fund that totals $34,692.
All right.
So your general fund balance is 1.4 million.
The reason we ask this and ask for the precise number, Miranda, is because normally we would be having our warning for last March, a statement asking the voters to allocate the surplus for the amount of that surplus and where that surplus is to be spent. In this case, we have what is now one, but will be in July, 2 districts. So we want to be able to allocate that money to those districts per a formula, but we need to tell the taxpayers what the dollars are that are to be split, as well as what the split would be. So when we put that number in for the voters, is it the 1,421 or is it the 1,455?
1,421.
Well, I just want to confirm that, Hardy, I just,
$1,421,000 general fund balance. The rest is all obligated for grants. So general fund balance, $1,421,000.
Okay, thank you. Because we'll be hitting that in about half an hour, maybe less. So, are there questions? Because and Hardy, I'm going to count on you and on Cheryl to take the lead on some of this, because one's got the expertise and one's had the deepest experience that isn't coming from me, because I don't want to monopolize this.
So right now, do one, but we've gone months through the next year, which will end in June 30th, and the budgets were similar this year to what they were that generated this. So in my mind, there's probably going to be a number, and this is going to grow. It really doesn't make split the number until we know what the number is as of June 30th, 2022, which is when the 2 districts split, when Westminster becomes one and when Grafton becomes one.
Hardy, with respect to that, I agree. The problem is that you can't carry unallocated balances forward. We zero out at the end of the year, and so the money goes to taxpayers unless we allocate it. And so the question becomes, if we do that, this can become revenue for the districts for the next coming year. And the question is, what would that amount be? So you're suggesting we simply don't get into that? I don't know if we can. Can we, Andy? Because I thought we had to. Normally we were doing this in January and stating the figures in March, and here we are having had that being in April and trying to have that meeting in May.
Right, so if you can't carry you can't carry the fund balance forward, you would have to allocate it to something. So you could allocate it for future boards to decide how to use it, but you have to do something with it. If you do nothing, it goes back to the taxpayers.
That's correct.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying. So we're currently working on FY22 and getting that correct.
Yes.
Glenn Hankinson, who's been consulting with us, you know, shamelessly, because he's not here, so I'll hit him up, went to Hawaii. So he was unable to.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
And so I had asked him to, he had provided for the other boards, he'd gone through and looked at where the current projected fund balance would be for FY22, so you would at least be able to see that.
Okay.
This was the one he couldn't get to prior to leaving. So Ron, we just gotta, you know, give him a hard time when he gets back, so.
Andy, I'm getting on the phone to him right now, Mr. and Tish, right now as we speak.
So,
that for you.
this 1421, is that cumulative? Does that include the issues about monies from prior years?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to kick it back to you, Cheryl, because I literally can't see you because you're on a postage stamp with everybody else there. Do you have any questions? And does anybody else in the at the elementary school have any questions?
I do have some questions. Thank you, Jack. I'd like to ask Ron and Miranda. I'm not sure where we are with the final audit report. You know, I'm just literally a document that tells us where we are with all of the findings. I know you had an earlier report that raised many issues that we've looked at, some of which have been corrected, but probably not all. I'm used to seeing a final document, and I don't think we have one.
I think that to answer that question, and that's a great question, I think these were lifted out of the final document. Miranda, where's that final draft out for the purpose of putting this conversation to rest? I don't think the numbers are going to change. These got lifted out of that final document, correct, Miranda?
That is correct. We issued a draft. Andy reviewed it. We had to make some changes. So the latest one came out about this. It came to Andy this afternoon. And that's where I got these numbers from. So I don't anticipate any other changes unless in reviewing with Andy, he feels like something else needs to change. But I at this point, I don't think any other changes are going to be made, especially to the numbers with that.
You need to approve your final audit by a vote of the board. And this board will materially change on June 30th. So when are we going to see a physical in-hand document that we can approve?
I'd say if Andy signs off on it tomorrow, you'll see it. You'll see it by the end of the week, Monday, Tuesday at the latest of next week.
Okay, because I kind of thought we were going to see it this time and maybe even back in March. So, but I just want to make sure we're really going to, for sure, really honest to God, have a physical document.
Yeah, Jack, you do. And we went through, just to make sure that there were no other lingering questions there, we went through again with a fine-tooth comb, which we wanted to make sure, Jack, we could look with certain, to see if there was anything else, that didn't stick out beyond, something that was skewed by $250,000. So there's a lot more time that went into this product again, to kind of like answer other questions that you didn't even raise, Jack. So I think we're very comfortable now with the product to let Andy know. And and I would expect it's a formality to deliver that now.
Okay, because when you come to the SU, there's going to be some more questions, and a couple of them I'll be asking, and they'll be forensic quality questions.
Yeah,
so,
Jack, I look forward to them just like the last ones that were asked.
Okay, you know how this works, and you know where I'm coming from.
30 years, Jack, been doing it, so I look forward to those questions, and I'd be shocked if somebody didn't ask them. So I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Well, all right. Any other questions at the elementary school?
I have one. Just
go ahead.
We have a town meeting coming up in less than a month, so this month. I think we're supposed to take a number to them for Westminster's surplus to allocate. So
That's
we
correct.
still don't have a number for what is Westminster's surplus.
Well, that'll be something we're
We have
talking
to
about
decide.
soon. Right.
Do we decide, or does it order to recommend, or what?
We will be negotiating that. And we've got a formula suggested from Hardy that I'm hoping we'll use, mostly because it seems to be the most objective thing I've seen. But we'll have that conversation, but probably not tonight.
Well, so let's
I
back,
like David to be here too.
just finishing my questions to Ron and to Miranda.
Go ahead, sorry.
So what we've been told is that this is the report, it's the audit of the WNUESD.
That's correct.
And that's what we need to be able to pull apart. And to Charlie's point, the Westminster Town Meeting is 2 weeks from now. So we were getting desperate to actually have all these numbers. I feel assured that Andy has it today and that by tomorrow or soon after, we will have it and be able to call it final.
I forwarded it to WNUESD board at 4:48.
But not to the Westminster board then.
Well, so because
We're still,
it should still edit, then I will, I was going to check, that's the question, because I know
I did get it.
he's saying he got it, so I'll make sure I do forward it to you guys.
you have
So
to do the two boards.
we might have already split it out, so I do apologize.
Yeah.
So I will do that right now.
So we're
That's
catching
why,
up.
yes.
And
okay.
then to Charlie's question and what Hardy will be helping us with shortly. Yes, we have this figure for the surplus now that we have confidence in. It's how to allocate it between Westminster and Athens Grafton.
We need to take a number to the voters on.
That's correct.
30th.
That's correct. We do.
Okay.
I have a question for the auditors, which is really going to be a future question. Because as of 6/30 this year, we need to split basically the cash. There's a 2,700,000 at the end of last year. I don't know what it is this year, but there's going to be a lot of cash that's got to be split. There's going to be all of the capital that's got to be split. And I guess, I don't know who's going to do that. I met Jim and he seems very, very capable. Is he going to do it or the auditor's going to do it? I guess that's my question. Because the assets and liabilities have to be split between Westminster and Grafton Athens, who's left, as of 6/30.
I would have to go back and look at like what was the original agreement, because that would dictate how that split would happen.
Yeah.
Can I hop in here after doing so many of these things already in the state of Vermont?
Sure, please.
It's going to take you a long time after 6:30 to reconcile, because there's going to be things that are going to come your way, you know, based upon like tuition payments. Literally, we'll try to put that information in your hands, you know, as soon as possible. But I mean, just on 6:30, and I get what you guys are trying to do, you know, with the state agency of education and all the timing delays to get the information, you know, final requests, final payments, final cash settlements, you know, we're going to be probably talking September 1st, you know, before that number starts becoming clearer on June 30th, 2022. And may I suggest, if I were you, and it was already discussed tonight, that $1.4 million, take it to the bank, you know, and then start the math on that. Let us do some projections on where we see 6/30/22 landing for a plane, and that will give you another conversation in addition to this $1.4 million that you guys have in front of you tonight.
Just as a point of information, we have to date made one decision that was approved by voters, which was to essentially remit the physical properties located in Westminster back to the Westminster School District without cost. And that includes any sunk expenses put into their capital, you know, into their facility. We've simply have agreed to acquit on all of that because they brought those in without compensation. They're taking them back without compensation. So we're down to cash surpluses. There's an agreement also on the bond and that the bond will be resumed as of July 1st in total by the Westminster district. So we've done the capital assets, and we've done the principal bond have been settled. That's why we thought that to a very large extent, it really boils down to the surplus, and I'm sure there's going to be some additional monies, but I don't think they're going to be massive. I
don't either, Jack, and I think that that's well done. Well done. You know, all I'm saying is whatever it is, I think if we can agree, whatever massive it doesn't look like, whatever north of 1,421,000 sounds like the only, you know, reconciliation point right now. And I don't think that'll be a hard thing to do to get you guys that number for 22, you know, to do that. So at least it gives you guys a range to apply your math to.
Right. Well, we'll have we'll have what we hope will be a small surplus at the end of this coming fiscal year as of June 30th. And as you say, we won't, if we do this per the normal process, that will be settled literally next year, probably around January. But we won't know that figure. This is all of this past year and cumulative years going back ad infinitum since the merger, or since the last time we had a coherent budget. Does that help at all, or did I just confuse things, Hardy?
No, I'm with you, Jack. You know, I think you guys have got a good plan. It sounds like you've narrowed it down to the surplus now, so I think that's great.
I hear you, Ron, but I report to my board, so I want to make sure they're happy.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were asking me, Jack.
No.
Your board, but I'm still afraid, I'm still a little unclear about the timeline here, because we have one opportunity for the town of Westminster to vote on distributing a surplus on April 30th. We won't get another one until next spring. So you just said we couldn't talk about this tonight. So when will we talk about this split so that we can present a number to Westminster in 2 weeks?
Probably within a couple of days.
Will we have a special meeting, or how will we do that?
Next week, Monday, if you get the agreement on the board, you know,
What I think makes sense, Hardy, is let's talk, ex parte maybe, and bring in Cheryl and see if we can agree on a very brief meeting before, what's it, 28th, to have a number that we can agree to present to that meeting, and presumably to the to the WNUESD meeting that will be in May. So we might as well just get that nailed down. Tonight we're in fact going to talk about a warning for our meeting. So it would be nice to have that, you know, we can dance around the number, but we are going to have one shortly. So we might as well do it ASAP.
Might be able to, I'm just thinking as we're moving into this next discussion, we might be able to release Ron and Miranda and then move into this next topic.
Right. Let's you're right, it's off topic. Thank you. Any questions on the report such as we have it from our friends at Rhr Smith? Anybody on in virtual land? I think that's Teen, Krista. Then back to the folks in the room.
We're good here.
Okay. I guess for the moment, Ron, we'll save batting practice for the next time. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyway, okay. So we have had our Rhr Smith. I have a 6C, financials if available. Is that what is? Does anybody want to remind me what that is?
I have that on there, Jack, just in case we have something. I didn't know if Glenn was going to be able to get me that report, and I don't have anything at this time.
I'm going to put in a request for next time you and he have a chat. And that is, I know other boards and the SU board would like a tracking budget. In other words, to say, where are we year to date and how does that compare year to date in prior years? Knowing that there'll be some fuzz because school years start at different dates and so it won't be exact. But I'm wondering if that's something that he's prepared to start to put together, and if we might see that either in May or in early June at the latest.
Yeah, I will definitely bring that up with him because what he had provided to the other boards, as I said, was was basically FY22 revenue versus expenditures and
Right, but you know, we're not worried about imminent bankruptcy. We just would like to know what our spending line looks like compared to prior years, and you know what our net looks like compared to prior years. And I think that's for this kind of an institution, seeing what kind of meaningful report you can get. I may be speaking out of turn because some of my members may want something different than that, but I know that's one of them.
Right, Jack Hardy wants to speak, and then I would like to.
Awesome.
I received information on the Grafton Athens budget, and I believe you probably did on the Westminster. I think I did too. I didn't look at that one yet. So I know the information is available, and it's basically printing it out and sending it out on a timely basis.
so what we those we call those the Cognos reports,
Yeah.
and or a blast, and so the budget hadn't been built into e-finance. That's one of the things we had found out. And so the team in the business office has been working to get it up. And I asked them, like, are we ready to go forward? Back in February, they said, nope, hold on. They felt a little comfortable. It went out in March with the caveat that there are still errors that haven't been fully done. And then we realized that some people hadn't got it, and we started working with the company that puts it out, and all of a sudden it stopped. And I guess there was a misunderstanding from the company, like we wanted it to go out. So you should have gotten a report, another report 2 weeks after that report, which didn't come out.
So I got March 4th.
No, so it was a glitch that when we were trying to fix it, and I don't know if there's.
Our school support is very slow to respond. So this entire time it's just going back and forth with our school support to reinstate the first report.
That was partly my question too. Hardy, we used to get these reports every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they were extremely helpful. And I've been asking, where are they? And so this is the explanation now that we're getting. They're catching up, but we desperately need this. We have to.
Because when they were coming out at the beginning of the year, there was no budget, so everything's negative.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't completely that. I was able to, that was, again, that was how we were able to look at that problem with tuitions not being billed. So they were actually more helpful than I think, I found them helpful.
Yeah, and Glenn and Casey felt that it was more confusing to send out reports, so that's why we put a stop to them. Plus, they were coming out with Flora's name still on them. There was all that kind of cleanup that needed to happen, and that's when we got to a point where I knew you guys wanted it. I asked them, we need to get going on them, and so they should start generating on a more regular basis.
Every 2 weeks, we ought to get them.
Yeah. So
one thing I would like to make sure these go to all the budget and audit teams on the various boards, and I would tell my various committee members that one of the things I want to happen at the SU level is to have a spec, because we can ask theoretically for anything you want that's useful to you, but in the past they've wanted it very precisely stated to them. So I would invite you to state very precisely what you'd like and how you'd like it, because we're hardly the only place that is looking for clear, concise, and usable financial data. And if we take the lead, so much the better. are there any other questions in the House?
Are we going to go to the meeting discussion? Are we going to pick up on Charlie's question about when are we going to discuss dividing up those monies? When are we going to talk?
Well, why don't we do that briefly now? Do you want me to send a round robin around to try to set up a quick meeting to get an allocation? I mean, we do have Hardy's formula, which I think still is the most objective thing I've seen. I don't know if David had some additional or supplementary ideas. I want to get him and Hardy and you in the room at the very least, in addition to just the whole board, but I want to make sure that you three are there so we can come out with a recommendation. So you want me to send this out via round robin and see if we can get a meeting together in the next several days?
I do.
I'm available.
Sure. So one of the things that's coming up for me is that I'm not sure about how to warn a vote for Westminster's town meeting on this. That's
I think the language I used in our preliminary, the draft that I sent around earlier today, just said that had a blank for the amount. Let's see, what did I say here? I got pulled up. And you know, I'm not quite sure this is okay. I'd had it in ours in Article 5, shall the voters approve the disposition of current fund balance as of July 1, identified by the auditor of the WNSU to be $1,421,000, according to the formula recommended by the WNUESD and Westminster boards. Now, are you going to have this as a, you're going to do this in person as a live meeting, right? This is not going to be a,
that is correct.
Okay, so we can, I would think you can use the language I did in the Article 5, which says that shall you approve the disposition according to the formula recommended by the two boards. And you can present what that formula is at your meeting. As long as you've got the 1,421,224, I think you have done what you need to do legally. Krista may tell me I'm wrong because she can, you know, if this doesn't pass the saliva test, but that's what I would do.
That's what he sent out this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack sent this out slightly before the meeting started.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm very embarrassed about that, but I do not normally do this sort of thing at this point. You know, usually you get a day's notice. Everybody should have it. It says warning draft, and I sent it out and then realized I didn't send it out to half the people I was supposed to. And Christine had actually made amendment to it by the looks. So, you know,
Are we in time to send this out? If we send that right now, are we in time to do that?
You're having this meeting on the 28th, right?
I guess it's Saturday, April 30th.
30th, yeah.
Saturday, April 30th.
It's on April 30th. I don't know what your timeline is for a meeting.
Looking for a warning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not your annual meeting, right? It's not your 40-day notice thing. This is your, because if that's the case, that ship sailed.
It is our annual meeting, isn't it?
This is the annual town meeting, postponed from March.
Okay, well, what do you have for a warning for them?
We don't have this fiscal item because we did not have it.
And I don't think you can approve it. Because I think you have to have, I think when money items have to go through the formal awarding process. I don't think you can bring it up because nothing binding can be approved by a meeting if it wasn't in the morning.
Well, with the permission of the Westminster Board, I will check with the town moderator tomorrow and reach out to our attorney.
I think that sounds like a
Yeah, we need-
splendid idea. I think they're gonna have bad news for you, but I'm not sure. Hopefully I'm wrong,
Mhm.
but I don't think so.
Back to the frustration about how long this has taken.
No kidding. We were gonna, you know, we're gonna do both these suckers in April originally. So, yeah. And that does bring us sort of sliding in sideways to 8 formally, which is the discussion and scheduling of the annual meeting for the WNUESD. Andy, do we ever determine how much time we need for a non-annual meeting? Do we need the 40 days or do we need less? Can we do this in less? Because in 40 days, I got to tell Kim's got a vacation and I can't do this the last week in May because she's off doing something better than this.
Jack, I apologize. I didn't realize that I was supposed to find that out. So I will have to find, I don't have that.
All right, well, then we're going to have 2 items that we may be bringing up in that special meeting. Sounds like we need to find out when we can have the unified district meeting as well, and we need to get that nailed down. You know, a lot of things get dropped the last week on my end for family reasons, and I'll own some of this. We're not bugging you about it. I'll own that one, Andy. Don't, you know, there's enough going on. I do want to continue this discussion, however, with everyone's permission, and I am going to ask people, and I'm going to. I actually have a question, and maybe this is also an item that we have to defer. Andy, it was I think I understood when we were talking about the district meeting that if we were going to modify those articles of agreement that we have never agreed to, that we would have to list all of the modifications to that. Do you know if that is correct or not?
I don't, Jack, and I apologize. I'm not fully up to speed on all the divorce and what needs to happen, so.
All right, well, we get some, with the understanding that that might be the case, I'd circulated an amended version of the WNUESD articles. I'd essentially done a wholesale rewrite of them based on my bachelor's in Chinese history, which, you know, is what you really need when you want to redo a legal agreement. And with that caveat, if we do need to take the whole thing to the voters and have just, you know, a whole lot of fun on that, it seemed to me that rather than do that and do public education with just a few weeks to spare, that we should simply modify the pieces that we absolutely screaming have to modify before July 1. You know, we have some business we have to take care of. We need a moderator. We need a permanent treasurer. We did one ad interim. We need a clerk. We persuaded, strong-armed our Kim to be the clerk ad interim. We need to remove the references to the town of Westminster in the document. We need to add 2 members to the board so we don't have quorum issues almost immediately afterwards. We need to we have this issue that will be coming up about whether we offer to buy the Grafton Elementary School building back, or whether we accept the working offer, which is a lease of 55 years, which would be sufficient, I'm told, to get us past the ESSER requirement of having effective control of the facility. So and because we do have that fund balance of our share of $1.4 million, we have to have language to allocate that fund balance. Because otherwise we lose it and everybody gets a surprise tax increase the following year. And I also thought while we were at it, we might change the name of it to something easier to pronounce, like Athens Grafton Union School District. I mean, unless people are really wedded to WNUESD, we might even add a couple of additional letters to the alphabet, just pick them at random, throw them in. But
Jack, when you said that you were advised that the 55-year lease would be sufficient, was that something that the attorneys that you spoke with had talked to you about?
we have had some back and forth. I'm actually rather mystified about what the reluctance is from the town to sell us back the building that we only sold to them with the understanding it was to protect the asset during the consolidation. But there is
that might be one of the fears, because I know that that's what came up in Athens, right? Like all of the consolidation issues that happened with the state a few years ago. I think there is some fear that that could happen again, especially with the Agency of Education. And so I think it might be a hesitancy that it's easier just to keep it and protect it with the town. I'm not saying these fears are
yeah, it's not a rational fear, but I understand the fear, and you know, all I care about is getting being eligible for the ESSER money.
Right.
You know, if it's to paint the building purple, I'd be out there with a brush myself. But we've had a conversation with not Pietra, with help me out here, Cheryl. Who we keep on?
Sean Toohey.
Thank you, with Sean Toohey, who seems to think 55 works. Sean has said that the select board doesn't need to go before they don't have to have a town meeting to authorize a long-term lease, but we, as the lessor, need to bring it before our district meeting in order to sign an obligation over 55 years. So there is a meeting on Monday at the Grafton Select Board at 6:30, and I'll send you all the contact data on that, where they want to discuss it.
Jack, that's at 6 o'clock on Monday.
The 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Thank you. My error. 6 o'clock on Monday. Who spoke up, by the way, and thank you.
It's me, Kim.
Oh, hi, Kim. There you are. Thank you for cleaning that up.
Yeah.
Kim, have I described the situation accurately?
Yes, you did. And it is out of fear. The 55 years, I guess, was approved by Sean Toohey, gone back and forth with Larry Slayson.
No.
And so I think there is some documents that have already been started and the board is going to address it on Monday.
Right. And what we will need to do is, but we will have to sign it, but we don't have to sign it, next week, but we do need to refer to it so that the district can approve it. So that's an article that I've got in that list of 10 articles.
Right.
It's not 55. We're not going full Martin Luther here, but we got 10, which seems more than sufficient. So, and I would encourage people to come to that meeting if they can, and it would be, I would particularly like it if the AFRAP members can full time. I think we need to retire to see you're all so much more persuasive
I'm
anyway.
gonna go anyway for other reasons.
Your audio isn't as loud as it was, Jack. Having trouble hearing you.
I say I'm hoping that that we have as many members show up for that Monday meeting as possible, in particular the Athens and Grafton members would be, I think, helpful. Krista, I would particularly like it if you could come and Hardy could come. And actually everybody, Lynn too.
I have to check my work schedule. Oh, am I on? I have to double check my work schedule, but as of right now, I think I can. I'm traveling for work at the end of next week.
We'll try to limit the amount of these last minute impromptu things that we are doing. And I'm sorry that we're having to do one for this, but
Oh
hopefully.
no, happy to go. It's just I just have some work trips coming up.
I know,
Okay.
but I have a promise to my family that the middle of the week, last minute, oh my God, we forgot something, meetings are not happening. And, I have that obligation to you, and I have that obligation to somebody else who's harder to, less likely to forgive me. So there you go. All right.
So Jack,
Where is the Grafton Select Board meeting? Sorry.
I'm sorry, Krista, then Andrew, what?
Where's the Grafton Select Board meetings held?
Is held upstairs at the Grafton Town Hall, which is next to the post office.
Yep, I've been there. Okay.
And you can, they use something called Microsoft Teams, which is garbage. So if you can make it in person, you're more likely to get through.
I love Teams.
Yeah, all right. All right.
Excuse me, Jack.
I like Teams.
I hate that program. Andy, you had something.
Yeah, so I just want to double check because I've been emailing the attorney and trying to catch some questions here that you guys have. But are you looking to try and have another meeting next week, a special meeting, so we can make sure we just get it warned?
Yeah.
Didn't know or were you talking about because I've been
We're talking about getting a meeting of our friends in Westminster need to know if they can warn anything.
Right, so that's what I've been sending off, so.
Yeah, we need to meet to have a disposition of dollars if we can do it, because I'd like to be able to put that number into a formal warning. And I'd like to know how much time we need to, what's the minimum number of days we need so we can try to get this thing before Kim goes on vacation and we end up doing it in June.
Right. Two different meetings you're talking about. One is for the Union Elementary School District. The other is for the town of Westminster.
Right. And yours is on the 30th. And
correct.
They need to know if they can do anything at all. And ours is hopefully in May, but I'm worried that it's going to slide into June, and I'd really like it not to.
Right, but what I'm asking is are these two boards trying to meet next week to figure out that fund
the
percentage?
Allocation.
Yeah. Okay. And did you guys fall on a day, or were you talking about the other meetings?
We were talking about round robining and seeing how many people we can put in the. We'll need to do one of those whatever they call.
Okay, sorry. That's what I was trying to keep straight in my head. So.
That's all right. I'm sorry. It's a lot of stuff coming at you sideways. All right. What else we got?
Let's set a date before we move on.
All right. What's people's calendars looking like? Let me actually look at mine.
Sounds like Monday's already booked. I'm available Tuesday or Wednesday.
I am too. I'm available next week, basically.
Okay. I kind of like. Yeah.
Am I able to attend virtually at a special meeting next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Date for what, Lynn?
You wanted to get together next week to get that number?
Oh, you want to do it now? Good.
Yeah, so we need to set the date for next week.
And we can set that up as a hybrid with a special meeting, so folks who can't attend in person.
What's happening next week in terms of the other boards, Andy?
Right now, the SU board is meeting on Wednesday night.
With a quorum issue.
It's sounding like Tuesday. Can we do it Tuesday then, everyone? Because that way Krista's will be available and hopefully not traveling, maybe.
Yeah.
It's up in the air when I'm going to be going. I'm doing union assessments, so it's it's up in the air.
All right. Let's put it to let's mark Tuesday at 6:30. People can get some dinner.
Is this for both boards?
Yeah, because we want to have something agreed to that both boards can present to their constituencies.
I can try my best. We're going to be in North Carolina, so
I'm hoping this is going to be real short. This is called Marty and David have a number. They walk it through us. We nod sagely. We're done, kind of thing.
Sounds good.
Which David?
Well, I'm thinking. Oh, David's on our board. Well, then it'll be Cheryl and Hardy will have a number that they agree on, and we move forward.
Okay, and so the only thing for that meeting is to discuss the allocation of the fund balance for FY21. I'm sending an email right now to make sure we get it warned as fast as possible.
And we're going to finalize after we find out how many days we need for approving the warning. We need to get a warning out. Like I said, I sent the draft around, but we need to get a warning out. And
that again, you're talking about the Union Elementary School District.
Yeah, well, right, of which you are part until whenever, until July 1.
Right.
And to whoever wrote the note, on the difference between Articles 6 and 7 is one says, shall you have these new positions of additional school board members, and shall you then 7 is shall you actually elect somebody to fill the spots? Presumably,
Jack,
nominations.
I apologize. Where will that meeting take place?
The
physical location.
Yes.
Physical location for the meeting this coming week. We can
Yes.
do it. We can do it. Where do you want to meet? Let's do it in Grafton if we can. It'll be easy.
Okay.
Mine.
So we'll do it here.
Yeah, and it'll be.
No, I got it.
Thank you for that. So with that, are we ready to rock and roll and go home?
We need to set another meeting, the next meeting date for the regular meeting.
Will be at Westminster on was it the 4th Thursday?
April 28th.
Yeah, at 6 o'clock.
Correct.
Sorry, I forgot, what was the meeting time on Tuesday going to be?
I'd suggested 6:30 just to give everybody a chance to eat something.
Is that okay, team?
I mean, I might be on the beach, but whatever.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
No, bring it. I did went out in the snowy field a few weeks ago, so
Yeah.
it happened. All right.
Can I ask another question just about town meeting?
Yeah.
So as board members, are we at town meeting all day for the entirety of the town meeting day?
We tend to be. I don't know the sequence. I suspect that the school district report will be later in the agenda. I'll check with David Major and find that out, since he is our town moderator, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
All right, and this is, then we're at the item which on our agenda. Yes, director's comments. Why don't you start with folks in at the school? Cheryl, why don't you go first and then point to whoever's on your right.
Okay, I think it's been a busy day today, and hopefully we're getting some information calculated here that will get us going forward as two separate boards and split this surplus for us.
Nothing. I actually don't think I have anything else to add tonight. I think
I have nothing to add, thank you.
So is that everybody in the room? Then we'll go.
everybody in the room. Yes.
All right. We'll go to Tin.
I know next week is vacation for teachers and everyone, and I hope they have a very well-rested, well-deserved vacation. And Andy, I hope you get some time as well in the midst of many things.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, Krista.
No.
All right, just a couple of quick notes. I did send out a note to the Rockingham board suggesting that they authorize their chair to talk to Cheryl and I about ways to more closely coordinate the elementary school boards and the supervisory union. We'll see what boils out of that. If it works as well as work between AthGraph or the Unified District in Westminster, that would be progress indeed. My apologies for getting material late to you from my end. That will be, I hope, the only time that it happens. I think you need at least 2 or 3 days notice, and that package includes stuff from the chair. And with that, we'll see you in a few days.